Kumulana Blakamota. Today is Friday. Is Daf Lamed Omed Aleph. Amar Chida says, Hakol Moedim. Everyone agrees. The Bala Nida. Everyone agrees. If somebody has relations with a Nida, even though there's Isra to have relations with a Nida, and nevertheless, if you have to pay, if someone rapes or seduces her, you have to pay the Knas. Shemashal Knas. Why? The man is what the one who says, but the marriage should be chal. It is. You have a chuppahs nida. You can't. Marry a woman if she's in the state of a nida, and the man amarula kaima. You allowed to live with her. You allowed to live with your wife if she's nida. Hanami rula kaima. Eventually she will no longer be a nida. Now our Mishnah is arguing. Our Mishnah concludes that chorus does not take away. Is not an exemption for paying the money. And this argues with Amnechunya ben Hakana. The Tanya we learned Amnechunya ben Hakana. Amnechunya ben Hakana says. You can put in Shabbos, holds that just like Shabbos, if you light a fire on Shabbos, you don't have to pay people compensation because you're going to be killed for it. So too, when it comes to an affair of chorus, if you're going to get chorus, then you don't pay the penalty. So with this incest, you wouldn't be paying the $50 penalty, 50 shkolim penalty, because you get your chayim chorus. We'll soon see two ways of how we learned that. Ma Shabbos is chayim benafshi, just like Shabbos, you're chayim with your nefesh. It's a capital punishment. Upat a capital crime. Upat melashlumin. If you have to pay, come lemon the rabbinay. The same thing applies. Af yom kippurim is chayv benafshe pat melashlumin. You put it from paying. My time. How does he know that curse? Where do we learn that the whole concept coming to rabbinay in the Torah? In Torah says Parashat Shpatim, two men were having a fight, and one of them, tried to land a punch on his friend, and by mistake he hit a pregnant woman. So the pasuk says, if lo yihi asan, if nothing happens to the woman, but she loses her children, then he has to pay compensation. But in im yihi asan, but if he does kill the woman, then honor she gets punished. That means he gets killed, but there's no compensation for the children. So that's how we learn out the concept of kamle b'derabba b'nei. So our Rabbi says, Nemar Asan b'dei Adam. It says Asan by this case of him. I just spoke to you about the two people. The Nemar Asan b'dei Shemaim. Yaakov warned his children, I'm scared to send Binyamin to Yosef because maybe an Asan. I want to make sure there's no Asan. And what was he referring to? Probably things which were not in their control, like things from heaven. So Ma Asan b'dei Adam Pater Shlumin, just like the case where we learned that coming to Rabbinay. It said the word Asan, and you're exempt from paying. Asan b'dei Shemaim Pater Shlumin. So too, if anything else happens, even if it's totally out of your control, you are Pater like from the heaven. You are Pater from paying money. Like chorus is from the heaven of punishment. How do you know? How do you know the How do you know he's talking about? I want you to make sure he doesn't get a fever, doesn't get the chills. The b'dei mind, you're saying, look, these are heavenly things, and he's warning them. Asan. So we see asan. The word asan is referring also to things out of your control, beyond control, things that come from heaven. Maybe maybe he was telling them, be careful of thieves, be careful of wild animals roaming about. That's what we're talking about. Who said that things to do with heaven, and you want to learn from their chorus, is also the word comes on the word asan. So Gemara said, what do you mean? I think Yaakov as a certain father didn't give them warnings for everything. Then he warned them, Sai, Ganavim and lions, and Sai, make sure he doesn't get the chills, doesn't get the fever. Yaakov called Miliaz on everything. And therefore, and they all come under the word asan. That's how I learned that asan means even they shemayim, and chorus therefore exempts the child from chorus, therefore exempt you from paying money. Says the Gemara, we're digressing for a minute. So in your question, you refer to somebody who gets a fever, somebody gets a flu, somebody gets sick. You're saying it's b'dei shemayim. In fact, we learned somewhere just opposite. The tzinim of pachim b'dei shemayim. This is the heavenly. This is in the hands of the heaven. But Tanya, we learned hakol b'dei shemayim. Everything is in the hands of heaven. Chutz mit tzinim of pachim. That everything in the hands of heaven except fever. You can take care of yourself, dress properly. You won't get a fever, or you won't get the chills. Remember, it says. Tzinim, it says in the pasuk that tzinim pachim b'derech, that these tzinim pachim on the road, ikesh ikesh in a non-straight road, somebody who's careful can distance. In other words, it is in our control. So what do you tell me is not b'dei shemayim? Answer the Gemara. So how come b'dei shemayim chutz mitzvah pachim? Getting sick is in your control. So Gemara answers. Furthermore, you think a lion and a ganav is our control? There's no longer a Sanhedrin today. The punishments that come for the 4 deaths didn't stop. Like botlu, but with dinar misle botlu, which means that, and the Gemara will explain in a minute, that things that happen like lion, getting crushed by lions and so on and so forth, is actually b'dei shemayim. It's a message from heaven, or some kind of punishment that's being meted out. Takes to ask a very general question. If everything is in the hands of shemayim, then why do you have to worry about anything? Just walk under a ladder, walk in the street, cars are coming right, left, and center. It's b'dei shemayim. If I'll die wherever I am. If I won't die, I won't die. So Tais says no. That's not what the Gemara means at all. The Gemara means as Tais says things that you're negligent about, you're totally responsible. In fact, we have an expression in the Gemara that the blood is in your own hands. We're talking about a case here where you have no control. Anything that happens in Gashmi is that you have no control. You have to do whatever you can do in normal life. But if beyond that, it's totally the Eibishter. And that's why you should never be depressed or anything else, because if you did the best you can do, the rest whatever is the Eibishter's plans, and you can't do anything about it. Okay, and takes us into the question. We know 40 years before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Bezdin disbanded because they were killing all these people. There were so many murders going on, the Bezdin couldn't handle it anymore. So why does it say Miyim Shechara Beis Hamikdash from the day the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed? Actually, it happened 40 years before. So the answer is that they still used to convene from time to time in case of an emergency or an urgency, but except for murder. Because the whole reason why they were disbanded in the first place was because of too many murders. So what happens? The Gemara says an interesting thing here. So Eladin, Laman on the top of the page, Din Abba Misle Bottle. There's still people died prematurely, and there's a reason for it. It might be a punishment. For example, Mishas Chayiv Skila, if you deserve, let's say you Chal Shabbos and you deserve Chas V'Shalom to get Skila, Oy Neifum in the Gag, you fall off the roof. Skila was they push you off a second story and then they stone you. Either you fall off a roof, which is similar, Oy Chayid, you're trampled by an animal who throws you down and tramples all over you, which is like Skila. So that's the lion. So we see it's B'dei Shemayim. Mishas Chayiv Seifa, somebody needs a Chayiv, we didn't have area that Chayiv Sreifa, that has to be burnt. Oy Neifum, but it falls into fire. Oy Nochash Mechicha, he gets the poison from a snake, which is like burns through you. Misha Chayiv Harega, if you're Chayiv, let's say to be you murdered somebody, Chayiv Chereb, Nimsul Malchus, either you given over to the government where they'll find you guilty and they're going to behead you, or at least in Boinul or robbers and they're prepared to decapitate you. Again, that's like Chereb. Misha is Chayiv Chenek, if somebody's Chayiv Chenek, which is to be strangled, or either he drowns, or he makes Besanuchi, or will die from diphtheria. You can't breathe. So El Avery, right? So let's swap it around. This is just part of the digression. When we asked originally the question, we meant to say, "Are you vegan b'dei shemayim?" A lion attacking you or ganovim attacking you, that's in the hands of heaven. But sinim upachim b'dei adam. Sinim upachim b'dei adam. Sinim upachim getting sick. We're not getting sick. That's up to us if we take care of ourselves. So that's why Tanya says that if somebody, let's say, harms you, you should never get angry. You should accept it that this was the Eibishter wanted. So why does that person then get punished? If whatever that person did, you robbed you, that's what the Eibishter wanted. That was the plan. So why should the person get punished? On the contrary, he did a mitzvah. He did what the Eibishter wanted. No, because he made choices, and his choice was a bad choice. The Eibishter would have done whatever he had to do to you, but it didn't have to be through that person. And therefore, he gets punished for the bad choice, but you shouldn't get angry because that's what the Eibishter wanted. That's what the Eibishter wanted. Anyway, so Abaye learns from the word Asan. Asan, we compare Yom Kippur to Shabbos. We compare Koros to Skila. Rava says another reason, time, but I'll tell you what Amluchunikon's basis is. Mahacha, for following pasuk. It says if somebody takes their kid through that Avodah Zarah Melech between two fires, and he deserves to be killed for it, Halam Yalimu, and let's say the Bezin decides to close their eyes and not notice, Amar is a name, the people of the land, their eyes, Mina Ishahu, from that person, when they bring their children to this Avodah Zarah known as Melech, then you should know that Samti Ani as Panai by Ishahu, I personally am going to take offense and I am going to punish that person, Uva Mishpacht and his family, I'm going to give Koros. In other words, you should have given him a capital punishment in your Bezdin. If you don't, I'll give him Koros, says Rabba. So what do you see from here? That Koros is a substitute or very similar to a capital punishment here. Amr Toida, Koros Shli, my Koros is Kamishul Chem, is tantamount to your, is similar to your Misa. Ma Mishul Chem, in what way? Just like if you're in a court of law, if you punish somebody with death, Patim and Shlomin, they don't have to pay money anymore. Av Koros Shli, so to my Koros, Patim and Shlomin. So if you're Pater from paying. So on Yom Kippur, if you light a fire, you don't have to pay money for the house that you burn down because you're getting a Koros for lighting the fire. And Kom Lemed Rabba B'nei. Says the Gemara, at the end of the day, Abaye learns it from Asan, the two men fighting, and they struck this woman, and you get Skila in the court, and also by Binyamin, and Rabba learns it from the Pasuk by Melech. So what's the difference? Ma'ika ben Rabba Lavai, is there a difference in halacha? Ika ben, there's a difference in halacha. What about Misa b'dei shemayim? We have Koros, we have Misa. We're having the end of Moed Katan. Koros is at the age of 50, and you also lose your children according to some restraining. And Misa b'dei shemayim at the age of 60, and you don't lose children. So there's two different things. What about Misa b'dei shemayim, which is a step lower than Koros? Do we also say Kom Le'B'Derabba B'nei or not? Zor she'ochal truma. If Yisrael eats truma, he's chayiv misa. La Abaya according to Abaya, and there's a money penalty. He stole truma from from a kohen, and he ate it. So he owes money to the kohen, and he's chayiv misa for the truma. Do we say kama b'drabana? You're exempt from paying money or not? Is La Abaya potter? According to Abaya, you are potter, and according to Rava, you are chayiv. And according to Rava, you are chayiv. Why according to Abaya potter? Because anything to do with Shemaim, you are potter. According to Rava, it's only limited to Karis. Says in Gemara, Abaya potter, you're telling me that according to Abaya, you don't have to pay. I have a question now. We're going to start analyzing. Is that in order to become a Rabbinate, it has to happen in tandem at the same time. But over here, when you stole the truma, you became a god. You're not chayiv misa till you ate it. So it didn't happen at the same time, but 2 stages. So you're chayiv money for stealing it, and so you became a gadif. You're chayiv misa when you ate it. So there's no kama b'drabana here. What's the difference? Says the Gemara, I don't understand. Chid lay down a rule. Chunya admits, concedes. If you steal treifa fats from your friends, right, your own money, but when you ate it, you chayiv misa for that. You chayiv. Why? And you chayiv tip money. And even according to Chunya, it says when you get chorus, you potter, but in this case you'll be chayiv because they're not happening simultaneously. Concurrently. You chayiv gneva first when you stole it. When you lifted it up, you made a kinyan, it became yours, acquisition, and you're not chayiv misa until you ate it. Alma, what is he made? Even the agba, as soon as you lifted it, can you kind of, but you're not liable for it misa until you actually ate it. So Hochanam here too. Be'idna, when you stole the truma, be'idna agba kanya, as soon as you lifted it, called kinyan hagba, we'll talk about it tomorrow, you were kind of, but you're not liable, you don't get punished until you ate it. So there's no common rabbin here. What's the difference in Bible? Says no, I'll find you a case of truma where you stole it, the stealing and the eating happened at the same time. How? Your friend stuffed it down your mouth. Your friend stuffed it down your mouth. You never lifted it. And therefore, because your friend stuffed it down the mouth and you ate it, so when you ate it, you became the ganef. And at the same time, you chayiv misa. And because when you ate it, what are you chayiv for? You never lifted it. You're chayiv because you're enjoying it. Coming down your throat, you're enjoying it. And so how much do you actually pay? You don't pay for the full value of the thing. You only pay for the enjoyment. If I lifted it, then I'll be a ganef. Then I pay for whatever I pick, whatever the value of the aryim is. But now that I'm only chayiv for eating it, I'm chayiv to pay the money, whatever the value is, the enjoyment of that food that I just ate. And at the same time, it's a moment you have to chayiv misa. So the Gemara, I don't understand. Still not the same time. Why not? Your friend stuck it down your mouth. So the Gemara, in your mouth. Safe. Still, even the law ase kanya, as soon as you chewed it, you were koine. But mischaye benafshe lahave adabala. As soon as you started chewing it, you were koine because you made a shina, you made a change. But you're not chaye misa until it enters your stomach. So still not happening at the same time. Okay, it might be seconds apart, but still not happening concurrently. Based on this is a big machlekes with the Rosh. If you steal matzah, the Rosh Psachim, if you steal matzah, you're not yotze on Pesach because the Rosh says it's not lechem, it has to be yours. And others ask a question. Since as soon as you chew it, you're making a shina, you're making a change. As Gemara says right here, Kim Lulosa, you made a change. As soon as you made a change, you're now the ganef, so it became yours because now you only owe money. The item itself has been changed from its original thing, and therefore you should be yotze matzah. And the reason why you're not yotze is for different reasons, because of mitzvah haba ba'avera, because you stole something and then did a mitzvah. So they all try to understand this Gemara here based on that rush. To be and others. So Gemara answers no. The guy, someone answers, you know what? He didn't put it in your mouth. He stuck it basically always to the back of your throat. So there's no chewing. It's all the way on the back of the throat. And therefore, because there's no chewing, there's no shini, you became a ganef and meats at the same time. So the Gemara, what are we talking about? If you can spit it out easily, then the head he should have spat it out. And if he didn't, then that's when, interesting, Rashi says that's when you became a mazik. You ruined it because now you can't get it back anymore the way it is. Others say you're a ganef. And what do you call it? If you cannot shoot out, am I chayiv? Then why are you chayiv? What did you do? Why are you chayiv at all? It's not your fault. You're an honest. Now, Rashi, big machlek is showing me. According to Rashi, the Gemara asked the question: if you could spit it out, then you're responsible. According to Rashi, the person who put it in there is not a ganef. It's only you. According to Tosfos, of course, the person who put it in there is a ganef, but you're also ganef. And the law will see in the end of Baba Kama that when two people are ganavim, you can choose rotza mezeglev or rotza mezeglev. You can choose whichever one you want to pay from. And the other thing Rashi says, if he cannot spit it out, then he's an honest. Why should he get killed? And others say, why should he be a ganef? It's not his fault. Answers the Gemara. So how can you find a case of stealing truma, paying, and misa at the same time? We needed the motzil adur. Talking about you could have spat it out. Even though you spat it out, it'll be miyas, and it's not suitable anymore for the owners. So therefore, a gazlin, you're not going to be chayiv. You're not a gazlin anymore because the other guy put it in your back of your mouth, and if you would have spat it out, the other guy, the gazlin doesn't want it back anymore. It's miyas. But the fact is, since you could have, you wouldn't. If you wouldn't have swallowed it, you could have. Now that you swallowed it, you enjoyed it. This is your choice. You didn't have to swallow it. So because you chose to swallow it, so that minute you became a ganef or a mazik, and at the same time you chayiv misa. And that's how we find the case, because he could have spat it out, even though it wouldn't have been the Gaza doesn't want it, the niggas doesn't want, the victim doesn't want it back, but you could have spat it out, and therefore that moment you decided to continue and swallow it, that's when you took over ownership and you become responsible and for the hana that you have from eating it. Or Rav Papa says even easier. Rav Papa says you should talk like a mashkin term. He gave you a liquid which you cannot spit out at all. We'll put it into his mouth. So therefore, it's me, even if you would have spat it out, the nigga doesn't want it back. So the fact that you decided I could spit it out, but decided to swallow it, now you take over responsibility, and that's the same moment you're swallowing it, you become chai misa. So therefore, it's all tandem. Rav Ashi gives us an interesting answer. He said, and this is very interesting because the big machlek is a shaynim. The way Rashi learns is that as follows: misa lazeh umamen lazeh, which means if let's say I throw a spear and I kill somebody, and he's wearing someone else's coat. So if he'll be wearing his coat, I don't have to pay for his fur coat because I become a rabbit. I kill the person. But what happens wearing someone else's coat? So the money belongs to one person and the death is for the other person. And Rav Ashi says, the way Rashi learns, he ate truma, right? He ate his own truma, so therefore there's no gneva there, there's only misa. But at the same time, while he was swallowing the truma, he went ahead and ripped somebody else's silk or somebody else's clothes. And therefore, and according to the Rav Ashi, that's called kamle b'derabba b'nei, and you have to, and what do you call it? And that's the chiddush. That's the machlekes Abaye Rav. According to Abaye, Bisa B'dei Shemayim will exempt you from paying money to the other guy, because we do say kamle b'derabba, even though there's two different people, money to that person and misa to that person. And according to Rava, that because Bisa B'dei Shemayim is not an exemption. This long Tosfos has a discussion. They all argue with Rashi. First, the very simple thing, by the way, is you light a fire on Shabbos. Isn't that misa lazeh, mammon lazeh? The mammon is for the owner of the house, and the misa is for the Eibishter. But so the Re lays down a very interesting rule, which I don't like. But Re lays down a very interesting rule. If both acts happen through one activity, if both results, the consequences happen through one act, you lit a fire in a house. That one single fire is Shabbos and burning down a house. Then kamle b'derabba. It doesn't matter if it's two people or not. But if it's two different acts, like over here, you're eating truma, and with the other hand, you're tearing somebody's clothes. That they all argue with Rashi and say that's not kamle b'derabba. It's two different acts, even though it's happening at the same time. So what? It's only if it's one activity that causes two consequences, then we will say kamle b'derabba according to the Re. Anyhow, we'll continue tomorrow.